Okay. All right. Now we're starting to record. So first and foremost, I want to welcome you all today to our Get Grounded Power Hour. It's Kristine Gardner and myself. For those of you who don't know me in more detail, because there are some people who don't know me on this call, my background is actually brand marketing as well as coaching and leadership training. I got into coaching leadership training over 15 years ago when I left the corporate world and I was looking to transition my career. It was the best decision that I ever made because it was the first time in my life at 34 or 35 that I took charge of my life. And transparently during that time, I was also looking to have babies. And in the current environment that I was in, I was traveling the world. It could have happened, but I am known to be like a workaholic. So a lot of these workshops that I do come from the standpoint of who I was and who I wish to impart wisdom to transition and shift their lives, to make them more open to what do they value in life, what do they want for themselves, and what's your why, right? So as we were saying earlier before we started recording, Kristine and I, at the beginning of COVID, first of all, we've talked about doing something together for, at least 10 years. And Kristine was my trainer after my second baby, and has always been a dear friend to me. And when COVID started, I was like, dude, I don't care if we can't go to Boulder, let's get it done. Let's just do it. Who cares? It doesn't have to look perfect. And that's really kind of my motto, no matter what I start. It's just about getting started and moving into action. The perfection component of it comes through the process of figuring out. I think we all forget that when we were younger, things sort of happened to us. Like you just started gradually progressing in your career because you basically were just doing a great job, right? And we forget that those things happen because of doing a job, and the perfection came through the wisdom and the experience. So my goal is to open us up to the process and really just to take us down in this hour. Like, like we were saying before we started recording too, is that this is a really hard time. I mean, it's unprecedented. In none of our lifetimes, our parents' lifetimes, our grandparents' lifetimes, has anybody ever been through what we are experiencing today. And whether it be that you are a pivoter, which I am, or you're someone who gets stuck very easily, the bottom line is we all need each other. And I myself, I felt I was moving right along. I don't know if you guys follow my tidbits on Empower LA, but I was moving right along and I was like, yeah, push through, we got this. And then like 2 weeks ago, I was like, WTF, what is going on? What are we doing? Like, this is just insanity. Like, your kids are working in your same space. Your husband is with you. Like, you don't even feel like you could do the smallest of like things that we do in our communities without feeling strange, whether it be the market or going to pick up food. I mean, we can't even eat at a restaurant anymore. So we're just all redefining what our life was. And I don't think our life will ever go back to what it was, but there is an acceptance. And the word that Kristine talked about, I'm going to hand it over to her, was about resilience. And resilience sometimes could be a scary word, but honestly, I want to share with you, we all have it. And it's just a matter of how and when we tap into it and who we call upon during those times to guide us through it. And what I would say is, Sue Young, going back to the Beauty Counter community, it has been this amazing community of women that has been supportive and has powered me through so many different trials in the last year plus that I've been doing this. So Kristine, I'm going to turn it over to you. You can give a little bit about your background and, we can then start the presentation.
That was so beautiful. Thank you. I always love hearing every time you do your intro, even though I know you so well, I still feel like I learned a new little nugget.
And I never say the same thing.
No, you don't. You don't. That's what I love.
I don't really
Neither do I, by the way.
I used to have to work off scripts and I can't stand it. So I would write a script. I'd be like, don't expect me to go by it because I'm not going to. So,
No, me neither. Well, so for those of you that don't know me, hi, first of all, I'm Kristine. And thanks so much for taking time to jump on our Get Grounded Power Hour this morning. Just like Michelle said, I look forward to this just as much as all of you do. I was actually on an early morning hike this morning with some girlfriends here in Boulder. And I made it up halfway up the mountain, but I eagerly turned around halfway because I was looking forward to getting back down and just getting grounded and coming together with this community right here. I love community. It's one of my words, one of my values. And so I respect all of you for coming together and being a part of our little community this morning. I am a mom of 3 boys. So I've already had, well, I should say 4, including my husband. I've already had 3 out of the 4 come in this morning while we're on this call. So I just want to put that out there that, this is casual. And although I've set boundaries and that this is our power hour, there may be a couple of interruptions throughout the hour. But I am, just like Michelle said, I have a background in all things health and wellness. I won't go too deep into that, but I was a personal trainer for a long time. I was a health coach for a while. I have my master's in counseling and psychology, and my focus has always really been on goals coaching. I really specifically love working with women when they are working towards putting together a new business, a small business, pivoting into something that they want to get into, but they realize that they have different toxic things holding them back in their mind. And really the mindset is what is holding them back from taking that next step forward. So what I love to do is to dig a little deeper into what are those negative mindsets? What are those habits that habitual habits in our minds that keep playing on replay? And how can we shift those? And how can we turn those around? So how can we shift your mindset so that you can take that step forward to reach your goals, to find your purpose, to realign with your values, so that you can really live your best life, no matter if it's during quarantine, no matter if it's, during one of the craziest patches of our lives. I truly believe that we all have the tools that we need within us in this moment to take that step forward, to do something that maybe we're scared of, that maybe we have something from way back when that's still holding us back from not letting us take that step forward. I love breaking down those patterns and setting up new ones so that you truly can live your best life, really. So that's a little bit about me. I used to live in LA. Now I live in Boulder, Colorado. I love it. When we moved 3 years ago, I thought, why are we moving? This is so crazy. And honestly, I truly believe it was part of God's plan, because here we are now. Actually, we just moved 3 weeks ago again, even a little further out into the country. And again, I thought, why are we doing this? And it brings it back again that, you know what? A lot of our plan is out of our control, and so much of our plan has already been planned. So you just got to roll with it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to this hour together and diving a little bit deeper into where we are right now with all of you.
Words and all that stuff. So guys, real quick, what I want to share is that everything on this call is really, you can take from it what you want from it, and don't think that the community ends here, because many people have reached out to us after the calls for guidance and help and deeper understanding of what we're talking about. Because honestly, all of these things that we're talking about are like 6 workshops in one. So we just want you to know that we are here for you. And the more that we work together, the better the performance and the results are on whatever it is that you're trying to reach. It could be something small and it could be something big. So my suggestion is be open-minded to text in the chat. And let's start that by actually in the chat, writing your name and where you live. That way people can connect with you, and maybe why you're here today. It doesn't have to be anything big. It's like, Michelle Wolf, Los Angeles, California.
Sorry, I'm on Zoom. Careful.
What'd you say? Oh,
Oops.
connection,
Oh,
Deborah.
sorry.
It's okay, don't worry. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen.
There may be different points throughout too. We'll ask you to chat in the chat feature too. So this is a engage. We want you guys to be engaged in this also. It's not just sit and listen to Kristine and Michelle. So just keep that in mind also.
Okay. Do you guys see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. And I'm looking for slideshow. Sorry, this happens every time. Someday I'll become an expert at it and you guys will be like, oh my God, Michelle, I'm so proud of you. Look how far you've come. Okay. How's that? Okay. So we already did our introductions. So now what we're gonna do is, oh, why is this happening? Okay. So what to expect from today? We had our introductions. We are gonna talk about tips to diffuse anxiety and stress. We're gonna do a short meditation. We'll talk about meditation a little bit so that you have a little more context. We're gonna talk about values. Values is one of my favorite things to talk about as a coach. And in fact, actually, if there was such a thing, I would deem myself as a values coach, because the more in alignment you are with your values, the more you can make choice from that place. And so many people make choice from obligation versus their value set. And that's part of what might be happening in our world today. They're not morals though. So what is your word? We want you to walk away with one word today, whether that be connection, community, resilience, and so on, that you can then use for 1 month. And then when you come back the month later, if you come back, or even just for that month, for you to basically get to your goal, okay? Go ahead, Kristine.
All right, so does this look familiar to all of you? I know for myself and just what we were talking about earlier when we were doing our introductions, so much is being thrown at us right now. So many different feelings, different kinds of feelings than we've had before, different types of responsibilities, the shoulds. I should do this, but I don't want to do this. The shoulds, the woulds, the coulds, the obligations, and mentally and physically. There's just so much being thrown at us that we can start to just feel like we're spiraling a little bit out of control. And especially if we're not taking time to get ourselves recentered and to get ourselves grounded. And that is why, again, why we're all here today, because I would guess that we're all sort of feeling that way, that so many things are bombarding us from so many different ways, and we need a place that we can just get recentered and be able to find calm in the chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for me, it's funny. I made this presentation, but like every time I see this picture, I just go, wow, it's so true. Like everything is like being thrown at us and you're just like, wow, like how am I going to get, some days I'm sure we all feel, how are we going to get through this day with everything we need to do? And then other days it's like, do I have anything on my calendar? Because right now it seems like surreal, because we're not tracking in the same way that we used to, right?
Right. Our brains are actually working differently now than they were before.
Absolutely.
Just seeing masks triggers our brains. I think it's becoming to get a little bit more normal, right? Seeing our masks and our brains are adjusting to this norm, but masks still do trigger fear. So many of us, the first time that we wake up in the morning or we go out for a run, we go out for a walk, that is a place that brings us peace. For the first time, our brains are actually seeing something that is supposed to resemble fear. So,
especially because culturally it's not, it is right. Whatever normal is,
not normal.
It's not normal for us to see that. We are trained to think that, we are the land of the free and the brave, and we should feel safe here, right? So
yeah, so we're physically rewiring our brains.
Absolutely.
So that in and of itself is a big deal. Lots going on.
Totally. So what does getting grounded really mean? Getting grounded means, to me, is being in alignment with oneself. But how do you do that? there are so many different ways of doing that. And it's really, what do you connect to, not what I connect to, because I could give you a million of examples of how that would work. But I have to tell you that for me specifically, if I actually do not leave the house and I don't get in nature at some point during the day with our new environment, and if I don't connect with someone, listen, a lot of my job is connecting with people, but what I'm saying is connecting with one friend, having one real conversation where it's a connection about something that is happening for me. If I don't have that in this current space, I feel lost. And so I make sure that at least once a day, I get out, even if that's for 10 minutes. I need to feel air. I need to see the light. And I think the thing is that is actually a blessing that happened from COVID for me, was that I used to love hiking. In fact, Kristine and I used to do it a lot in our very early friendship together. And I lost track of that. I started going to classes because it was faster, it was easier. Mm-hmm. I wasn't making time for it. And as I was hiking yesterday, I was saying to myself, what do you love about hiking so much? And it's funny, I asked my daughter this too, because she's been hiking with me. And I said to myself, what does it mean to you? And it's interesting, we had a lot of the same answers. It's the expansive space and the silence of knowing that something is greater than myself. And mm-hmm. Does that mean that I don't have to sometimes force myself to get out? But that's where the structure comes in. Like, people often ask me, how do you do everything that you do in a day? Well, I have to have a structure for myself in order to be successful. But that is what helps me feel grounded. If I don't have a structure, then I feel out of control. And sometimes I actually see myself, my ego is working or my saboteur is working, where I will deny myself of doing certain things because I'm almost testing myself. But the more self-aware you are, the more you could put those things into place for yourself and know what you need. So yes, you could read all these things, meaning like it's reconnecting with yourself and the earth, and it's balancing with your life, with the values. But really, what is it defined for you? How are you going to feel most grounded? Because, everyone is different. And we're just providing you some tools today to help you get there.
Mm-hmm. And getting grounded necessarily, Michelle, just to add on to that, doesn't mean you have to go out on an hour hike, exactly. Right? Or a 2-hour hike. And yes, this morning was amazing. I got outside and got up pretty high to look out at this gorgeous view and feel grounded. But getting grounded, it can just be getting your feet planted on the earth for 2 minutes in the morning. Or it can just be sitting on your bedroom floor, staring out the window for 30 seconds. Right. Mm-hmm. And just getting recentered and getting refocused and getting grounded for your day. Just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. Because, to be honest with you guys, like, simple things like taking deep breaths in the morning, like 3 deep breaths, like mm-hmm. completely recenter you. And mm-hmm. it only takes 16 seconds to basically recenter your brain. Mm-hmm. So, or like she's saying, just touching the ground. Like, a lot of times, this morning I was like, do I have time to go for a hike? I had to drop mm-hmm. my kid off, different things, right? And I was like, do I have time? And I was like, I don't. But you know what I'm going mm-hmm. to do is I'm going to make sure that I get it in just after this, right? Mm-hmm. And that sometimes is harder because you didn't get it in first thing in the morning. But then again, where do you rank in your day? Like, mm-hmm. where do you put yourself? Because right. so often we put everybody else ahead of us, and you deserve it. We're taking on more stress now than we ever did. Like, if we were doing it before, and mothers and or non-mothers, working moms, whatever it is that you are and how you identify yourself, we need it more now than ever. Like, I excuse myself a lot of times for my kids. I'm like, okay, I'm done talking to you. I'm going into my room, and I just take 5 minutes. I get perspective, and I come back out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, and what you say is, we make so many promises to different people, and I don't know about you, but I always feel badly or guilty if I don't keep a promise to someone else. But don't we deserve the same for ourselves? If you make a promise to yourself, you make a commitment to yourself, do you keep that promise? Anyway, okay. We digress. So what is a power hour? If you came to this call, you saw that on the invitation, come to our Get Grounded Power Hour. A power hour really is, it's a thing. It's not a drinking game. If you look it up, it's funny, when I was doing the research, doing the research on it, power hour is actually a drinking game, but that's not what this is today. Maybe another time we'll make it into the
We could do that in our nighttime networking.
Maybe we need to do a nighttime one and actually say this is a drinking game.
It's funny. I had a couple women say to me
Tequila.
yesterday, like, why don't you ever do them at night? And
Yeah.
I mean, we certainly could. It's not a reason. There's no reason.
No, we could do it anytime. Well, and that's really what a power hour is about. A power hour is a focused amount of time. So, and it's an amount of time. It doesn't even necessarily have to be an hour. It could be a power 30 minutes. It could be a power 15 minutes. Especially during this quarantine time or this COVID time, I've used this term more than ever with my family, and they've used it as well. And it's a way to put boundaries up, and it's a way to respect your time. It's a way to respect other people's times, to say, okay, kids, husband, partner, whoever it is, myself, I'm doing a power hour. I'm going to be focused in this time. I don't want distractions. Again, this is a good time to even remind all of you, do you have triggers that distract you? Is it your phone? Is it, another computer you have on, or your kids, or different things that trigger you, that distract you from keeping you on track to get your task done that you want to get done. So it's allowing yourself to be focused and to.
It's also, the key word that I think is boundaries and structure. Yeah. And I think, people are not clear on how much you could get done in, frankly, 15 minutes if you focus your energy. So I think that the power hour is an essential tool for creating space to create, right? So just like, say, let's use Desiree as an example. If you're a makeup artist, you set hour appointments, right? Or sometimes more. But it allows you that time to create this beautiful creation for someone. So that's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to provide you with 5 tips to being in flow. The first is exercise, okay? Even if you're not one that exercises, taking 15 minutes a day or even 10 minutes a day, just something. Like, some days I can't get out. So I literally have like one of those bands, and I have like free weights next to my, now I work in the dining room, next to my dining room table. And I just start doing this while I'm on a call. Okay. Or I do arm presses, or like I said to you earlier, I get out and I make sure I need to change my scenery, because we know it reduces depression. And I would be lying if any of us said to ourselves that none of us have had some form of anxiety or stress or depression during this time. We are going through the stages of grieving a life that we knew. We also, why do we do these power hours and Get Grounded events? To create community support. We want community support. Community is one of our top values, and we want that. So I also suggest that you really get to know your values. So we'll do a light values work, but I literally do like a game. I have a game that's a little bit like Uno that I do in my workshops. And if you join our women's groups in the fall, you'll do the full thing, and I'll send you the deck of cards and all that. It's an amazing exercise to play with your spouse, your kids, your team, because then you know how they're motivated. That's what values are. That's how people make choice. We want you to do some sort of form of mindfulness or meditation. Everybody has different thoughts around meditation. We'll talk about that in a moment, but mindfulness just could be a sheer awareness around what you want to create in your life and how that mindfulness plays into visioning, which is a whole other tool, right? And then really, truly, I think coaches and therapists are super busy right now because, there's so many people that need this. And just like Kristine was saying in the very beginning, this is a mindset shift. We have to make conscious choices every day. There are times where Kristine will call me, and I've had a really shitty July. And so she'll call me and she'll be like, how are you doing? And I'm like, you know what, look, today's not a good day, but I promise you tomorrow I'll be in a better space. And it's not that I don't like to project perfection, because I'm not perfect. And I tell my kids that every day, like, I'm not, like, so it's about us all getting help in the way we need it. Right. So these are 5 tips for you. Even if you did 2 of them, you'd feel so much better. Right. So now what I want us to do is just take a few minutes to, we're going to do a short meditation. But before we actually get into meditation, you guys could just say it out loud. But how many of you have actually or meditate on, like, have a meditation practice?
I meditate in the morning.
Okay.
I meditate every morning.
Okay, awesome. And are you meditating for long periods of time, or, I mean, are you like an hour-long meditator?
No.
Okay.
Like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah, like something just to get you sort of refocused and on a different path, right?
Yeah, just to start my day for myself and just get in tune with my body, my breath. Just quiet. I just do like a couple minutes of quiet. I love it.
Yeah, I do too. So we know.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi.
Hi, Jamie. Nice to see you again. So we know that meditation is an amazing tool and practice for us to get grounded and also recentered. And it also provides tips to us, right, along the way. As we're sitting in silence, things come up for us that provide answers to us if we listen on a deeper level. And I think the thing is, meditation does not have to come in like like we're, sitting and we're chanting. It doesn't have to happen, where you're doing it for like an hour-long practice or going on a retreat or anything like that. Meditation can happen, and like I said in the slide previous, in merely 16 seconds, right? It's just like refocusing the energy. 3 short breaths has been known to chemically alter your brain to shift it. Okay. So meditation can happen through prayer. Meditation can happen through nature. And I think the thing is, it became such a buzzword in the last like couple years that everybody's like, oh my God, well, I'm not a meditator. I don't know how to do it. I don't have the app. You don't need all that. It could be just you. That's what the beautiful thing is about meditation. It's just you and your breath, right? So what I want to do right now is, I just want us to spend a couple minutes in slowing ourselves down, okay? Getting ourselves out of our minds and moving us into our body, okay? So I'd like us all to gently close our eyes and come to a place where we are softening our breath. And I want you to feel like you have a magnet that is gluing you to the chair. And it's rooting you down. That magnet is rooting you down from the chair and or the floor, wherever you are, deep into the core of the surface of the earth. Let's take a deep breath in. And out. And as we slow our bodies down and our minds and our breath, and you envision your bottom rooted into the earth, I want you to think of the branches of a tree going out from there, and those branches of the roots, each telling you something different. One might be love. One might be joy. Next might be connection. Whoever doesn't have their phone muted, if you can mute, it'd be great.
Sci-fi and Western, but fun. So, that's kind of the script area. I don't think we do like drama.
I'm gonna wait till somebody mutes their background. Thank you. Let's take another deep breath in and out. And I just want us to give the visual of the different roots that are connected to you from the earth. We were saying love, joy, connection, truth, grief, pain, family. You are in the center of all of those roots, and those roots are what make you up. What of those roots brings you joy? Which ones do we need to recognize and honor in our current journey? Let's take another deep breath in. And out. In today's journey, I want us to think about, what do we want to bring into our lives for today? Not for any other day, but for today, in this present time. What serves me? What do I need to bring more of into my life to create what I want? Not what anybody else wants, but what I want. This is my life. I want you to fill in these blanks when I say, I am. What are the words that come forward? I am strong. I am love. I am trust. Only you can fill in this blank. This is your word. This is the word that you need to help you move forward. We're going to take a few more breaths. And on this last breath, I want you to hold it at the top. And as you release and you come into the present, I want you to think of, who is it that you are? What are those different roots that root you to our earth? What will fill you up and bring you forward in this next day, week, month, or even hour. Last breath. So now just spend a little time, if you have your journal in front of you or a piece of paper, and journal the things that came up for you, or type them in the chat, and let us know the things that you are, that you know to be true about you. Because no one can take those things away from you or your success or how you want to bring more of that into your life. Does anybody want to share? Hello.
Muted. I see them, people chatting in here, which is so great.
Yeah, I can't see the chat because of the
Oh,
share.
okay.
Oh.
So I am calm. Calm is great. I am balanced. I am ease.
Mm. Mm. I love
And
that.
I am valued. I am safe and at ease.
I love that. I feel more calm after doing that too, to be honest.
I feel more calm after that too.
Yeah.
I am brave and I am resilient.
Mm-hmm.
I am strong, smart, capable, loved, and feeling centered and calm.
I love that.
The word freedom came up for me a lot. That was Jamie.
Yeah.
I am love. I am patient. I am centered.
I love these guys. These are great.
I know.
It's beautiful when we take the time to do these types of things. And Desiree, I see that you're saying that you'd like to develop a meditation practice, and you know, it doesn't have to be every day. Even you could just set 10 minutes aside a week, and I think you'd feel so good. And I have some great suggestions for you of apps that make it just really tangible. There were times where I actually would just go and I'd go on a hike and then I'd sit on the side and I'd just sit in silence. I didn't necessarily close my eyes. It's really what feels comfortable for you. So I'm glad that was helpful for people, because it was really helpful for me. And I think, the more that we stay in COVID and quarantined, the more aligned we just need to really try to find space for ourselves to align with what we want,
And what's also beautiful is when you're in a community like this and you share it. I don't know if you guys feel it, but when you put those words out and you put those feelings out, it connects everybody. Mm-hmm. And so that is such a grounding feeling in and of itself, to share words like that and to share that energy and those feelings. We can't all help but feel that. So seeing so many people say the word love, to me, that also just radiates more love in this moment, and the earth needs that, the world needs that. So that's beautiful. Also, something that has helped me with meditation, because I'm the first to admit I go in and out. I'll be really great one month and get my meditation in, and then a month will go by, I don't do anything. But something that has helped me is to let whatever's going on around you be a part of the meditation. So part of me sometimes wants my meditation to be perfect, right? Everything to be quiet. Everyone be still. I'm meditating, no interruptions. Well, that's just not possible. So to invite, that's not real. There's construction going on outside my door or in our backyard right now. I can hear my kids outside. I can hear, maybe you have young kids, you hear your child crying, waking up from a nap, whatever it might be, distractions. Let that become a part of the meditation.
Yes.
And don't let that throw you off. Invite that in. It's just that part of that moment.
Yeah, it's funny. They talk about that when you go to coaching school a lot, is that whatever the chatter that is happening that's around you, whether it be, you know, your husband or whoever. I mean, I had a ton of noise around me too, but I think it's just, those are clues. A lot of times we get signs like from, you know, for example, like I keep going back to the hiking, but like even when you're hiking and you hear like the birds chirping, I feel like they're telling me something. I mean, I know that might sound crazy, but you know, I feel like when we hear the chatter, it's a way of bringing it in to what is we're experiencing at that time. And it doesn't mean that it was imperfect. And I think that that's part of the accepting, going back to like, everything is perfectly imperfect. We're experiencing exactly why things come up. There's a reason. And so stay curious instead of actually, you know, shutting down to that, that idea. But Eileen, I see one thing before we move on is that you say, not allow anyone to rattle me and think that I'm less than enough. That is absolutely right. And I think that that is a huge thing. That's very vulnerable of you to say, and thank you for sharing it. That's a huge thing for women. And, oh, you're going through a divorce. Actually, there's another woman on this call that's going through a divorce too. So it's, those are very hard things, and there's nothing like facing yourself and or others during those times. Nothing to make you feel more vulnerable. So I honor you for sharing that so so openly, and you are enough. Wherever we all are in this moment, we are enough. And that's one of the things that we also address in coaching is like, we were built naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. There is nothing that is wrong with you. You know, it's just a matter of meeting yourself where you're at. And that's where the learning is. So, okay. Now, how do I get out of this area? Okay. So now we're going to talk a little bit about values. So your word, literally, the words that you speak out of your mouth is what you value. So I invite you all to start being more conscious of the words that you select when you are communicating to others, because you will hear it. So words are just not words. Like these words like enthusiasm, empathy, creativity, passion, commitment. You will learn so much about other people and what is important to them in those interactions. So for example, I'm someone who is notoriously 5 minutes late, okay? Sometimes more. And I will always know when what is important to somebody, because if they're one who gets like super irritated with you and, you know, they're like, you're always this way, da, da, da. I know timeliness is important to them. So there are certain people that I'm conscious of it. Like I'll be like, I know you want me to be on time, so I'm going to really try. Because I've heard you. I heard what is important to you, and I want you to know that it's important to me because it's important to you, right? But there's so many other examples like that. So for example, Kristine and I both have told you how important community is to us, right? Connection is important to us. In that vein, if you know those things are important to us, then as a way of meeting the person where they're at in their communication style is addressing those things. And so those are ways, for example, you're going out on a job interview, right? And you hear what that person is asking. So in listening is one of the biggest things in communication. You will know what is important to that interviewer, right? Not just by what you can hear the words they're asking, and you can basically choose to mirror or know whether or not it's the right fit for you. You could look around, and be like, you know what? Why does Beauty Counter work for us? Because Beauty Counter is community. It is a movement. And that's why we all are attracted to it, is because it's something that we want in our lives, right? So values are principles that hold worth in your life. They're distinctly yours and only your thumbprint. So nobody else can own it, because frankly, what I may deem as my highest value being family, which it's not that family is not important to me, but it's just, if I was going to look at my top 5 values, family is incorporated in community. Family is incorporated in connection. I try to bring inspiration every day to my family. So it's not, I don't have to solely call out family as a value. It's intrinsically within me. It guides my decisions and my choices in life. I always have to look through the lens of like, how does this impact my family, right? And it is a known fact that the more that we live in alignment with our values, the more happiness we will bring into our lives. So that's why I talk about this a lot, because I think that, when we're younger, we have our family values. We're brought up with values that our parents tell us are important, right? And then we know what morals and ethics are, and that's what the society is guided by, right? But somehow along the way, obligation comes into play, whether that be, I feel obligated that I have to make this much money to support my family, or I feel obligated that I have to show up because my husband would be very upset about it. So times when you're going through transition, which frankly we all are at this current time, are a great time for you to shine the light on, what are my values? What are my family's values? How do I want to actually coexist in this current life? How do I want to show up? How do I want to be seen? And how do I want to be received? And it's interesting. I was on the phone with a girl yesterday. I haven't talked to her since high school. Okay, so that was just yesterday. No, I'm just kidding. She brought up, she's like, Michelle, one of the things I always really remember about you, and we weren't in the same friend group, she's like, is that you were really happy. You were like really smiley and always like positive. And I go, really? That's interesting, because who knows how people are receiving you? You don't know, right? So here's another example. I'm half Mexican. Culture is super important to me. I remember at a point in time in my life, my first job, people saying to me, well, I would never know that you're Mexican. I said, oh, you mean because I don't look Mexican? Because I look like, Caucasian or more European? And they said, no, beyond that, just, you don't really talk about it a lot. So I think it's like, how do you want to be received, and how are you embodying what's important to you? And so I think that these are things for us, not just words, but they are words to live by. So clues to values in your life. Clarifying values is a really long process, okay? It's a process of you getting to know you and observing you, and you're constantly reevaluating them. Things to reevaluate them are, where are you at that time? Like, so for example, if, living by the beach is important to you, but yet you're living, in the mountains, what does that say? Or like what I was referencing earlier is like, nature was always super important to me, and then I suddenly stopped honoring that. And why was that? And was I upset by that? Yeah, I was upset by that, but I wasn't honoring myself. Nobody was setting a boundary for me on that. I was setting that boundary. So how do you bring those things back into your life? So how do you also evaluate them is by thinking of peak or pivotal moments in time in your life, whether that be a marriage, or if you're, currently like you, for example, Brittany, you're in the middle of starting this process of planning your future in your life with your husband. What are the things that you want to put in your agreements with each other as husband and wife for the future? Some women never thought they were going to be working, and then suddenly are being required to work, and they're like, hey, this isn't my agreement. But these are things that you need to be clear on. And how do you know you're suppressing a value? You'll know because you're angry. you'll know that somebody, like, you know, many women will often say, like, I just want connection with my husband. I just want to feel like what I felt 20 years ago. I want him to hear me. I want to feel supported. But what does that really mean? How are you defining that for the people that are around you? You can't just live in your head. You have to actually profess them. So it's super important to find fulfillment. And the clues could be an observable behavior, and we all have them. So, you know, like, I get annoyed if I feel like I've said out loud to my children, like, hey, I'm going to be on this call for an hour. Please don't interrupt me, or please be quiet. And then sure enough, they're like in the room yelling and screaming at each other. I'm like, how is that honoring what my request was? That's poor listening, you know? So that's that. So what I want you to do is, I want to have you take a moment and journal. What is the life that you want? And these are the questions that I want you to ask yourself. Who are you? What fills you up? When are you most alive? What are you doing? Who are you with? And what's happening around you at that moment? And then I'd love for you all to share it after that. So we'll take a couple minutes doing that.
Sam, will you say them one more time, Michelle?
Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
What fills you up? When are you most alive? What are you doing? Who are you with? And what's happening around you at that moment? And if you guys have any questions on anything that I went through, again, this is usually like a 2-hour presentation on values. So you can ask any questions, and I'll pay attention to the chat now that I know how to find it.
I was chatting in there more than anyone.
Wait a minute. So Kristine, what comes up for you when we talk about values? Just curious.
Me?
Yeah, especially during this time.
Well, I was just chatting actually in the chat, and I was saying one of my values is freedom, right? Just being able to do what I want to do, freedom. And so obviously COVID has really tested that, because I was able to weave that in when my kids were at school. That's why I love this job, my job so much, working for myself. It gives me freedom. And so I've had to create freedoms in different ways, and pivot, right? Work with that value of freedom.
Yeah.
And then also I was chatting into about, who do you surround yourself with, and knowing their values. I think that makes a really big difference with just knowing who you want to be around and knowing what their values
and
are.
I think it's important also, like, those things change situationally. There's, as we know as women, there are very few people that you can do everything with, and that you share all the joy in the world with. And you know, there are your fun friends, there are your deep friends, there are the friends that you want to talk about work with, and all of those things. But very rarely do all of those things intersect. And so I think it's super important to be conscious of when those things do. Like Kristine and I talk a lot, because of course she's left LA, about living in LA is tough. You know, people, particularly on the west side of LA, like, you know, they want to know you and be seen because you know so-and-so, or you own this restaurant, or whatever it is, right? But I think that's the interesting thing about COVID. It's sort of like flattened all that stuff, because really we're all doing the same thing. you know, the fancy vacations have, you know, come to a halt or whatever it is. And so I think also there's a fear in being who you want to be sometimes, because you're afraid of not being accepted. And so it was interesting for me, like when I launched Empower, I guess it's almost 4 years ago in November, you know, people knew me as the businesswoman, like, but they didn't know what I really did, you know, and they sort of were like, oh, like, well, what's all this, you know? And I definitely certainly opened myself up to ridicule, but I did it because I wanted to be authentically me. And I had a lot of people that were like, oh, you need to do this. And I said, well, if you want to give me a lot of money to do that, that'd be great. Like, I used to work in the corporate world. Yeah, sure. I had millions of dollars of budget. I don't have that anymore. You know, so I think the thing is that not being afraid, that's when we need to actually be around people that are going to fill us up, because those are the people that will always love us no matter what.
Right. But those are the people that you want to surround yourself with, right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, does anybody have any comments that they want to say, or are there words that come up for you specifically? Like, for example, for me, 3 of my top values are at the top of my they're on the top of my website, they're on my Instagram. It's inspiration, connection, and community. I also am a big loyalty person. I'm a huge trust person. You know, like for me, no matter how long it's been since I've seen you, I will always be loyal to you as a friend. That is who I am. And so I also love fun, like, and I love passion. These are things that really, like, I love curiosity, like, you know, and I wouldn't say that, like, before I became a coach, I wouldn't have said like, oh, curiosity is super important to me. But like, curiosity for me comes in within forms of like lifelong learning. Like, I never profess to be the expert. I may have a strong opinion and I'll certainly state it, but I really love to learn. Like, I always come like a curious person more than like many people come to a conversation wanting to be the expert. Whereas I'm like, I know I'm going to learn something new, you know, when I talk to this person.
I see also coming up in the chat, growth. So both Jamie and Desiree were saying growth is coming up for myself, for others, helping others grow. And I think that's a big one, especially during this time. I mean, growth always is, but during this time in our world, growth may look different today than growth looked 6 months ago, right? Or 3 months ago. And how you maybe thought you were going to grow in one way. I know that at least that comes up for me. Growth is really big for me as well. Driven is definitely like a word for me, a value for me, just like Michelle was saying too, with curiosity. But what I think is exciting during this time is thinking about, okay, so maybe 6 months ago, I was thinking about this path. But now I am challenged in different ways to be resilient and to still continue to grow and to foster that value within me, right? But I may need to grow in a different way.
Yes.
And what's that going to look like?
Yes. And I think like that's the thing
The
about
hustle growth. Oh, Jamie says this is good. The hustle growth is over. It's more of a deeper growth.
Yes, I so agree with you. And I think that's where like our real true connections will come from. So it's funny, like last time we were on the call, Jamie, you know that like we had some problems with our Zoom number. And so it was kind of cool. It ended up being like 4 people or maybe less. And we had such a deep, cool conversation, and it was really connected, where people were really listening to each other. And so I feel like, I feel blessed that we have these experiences where we can come together and share in these honest ways that most of the time you don't, you know, because we were not able to slow down enough, right?
Yes. Well, and that's why Melissa just chatted. And I think this is a really big one, Melissa, especially when huge things happen in our lives, like COVID, you really think about forgiveness, think about patience, and who and what's important to me now going forward. Different people give me different feelings, and who is worth spending my time nurturing for me instead of feeling like I need to keep up.
Yes.
100%.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Like, and it's also like, you know, like we all go through our own thing. Like I myself included, where because I've always been one who pushes to the goal, that, you know, like sometimes I get to a point and I have to process it. Like I'm sitting in it and I'm saying, well, what is it worth to me? I'm a super big person on reflection. I'm so self-reflective, almost to a fault. And, you know, like I was having this conversation, I don't know, for those of you on the call, like I got into a pool accident this month and I hit my head on and I was like a relaxing afternoon, and there wasn't even anything, you know, big, but then the accident ended up being like this big deal. And I was like, you know, I was talking to this friend and I said, maybe God's trying to tell me to slow down. Like maybe the universe is saying that, like, I'm just doing too much and I'm da da da. And this friend said, well, that would be an awfully mean God. Like, why would, you know, why would you say that about yourself? And I said, I don't know, because I'm hard on myself. Like I pick on myself just like anybody else does, to try to find the rationale or the reason instead of just accepting that it happened and it was an accident. It was a fluke accident and it's okay. You know, you made a mistake. You weren't looking. Your eyes were closed. You know, it's like nobody's trying to punish you.
Well,
you know,
I said that, Michelle, you said it to me too. And I said, well, actually, it could just be it could have just been a simple mistake. And also maybe it was a sign that thank goodness it didn't happen to your, you know, you didn't happen to your eye or go deeper. So maybe it was a sign that it just happened.
Totally. I agree with you. So all really great stuff here. And you said learning to have grace for yourself is a challenge. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, for sure.
Especially when you go through big changes, right? If it's a work change, a career change, marriage, life. I mean, we're all going through a big change right now with where our world is, right? None of us have ever gone through this right now. So if one person tries to say like, no big deal, hasn't affected me. I mean,
well, I also think there's I applaud us all on this call because there's so many people that say, like, I think about you, Desiree, in the way of like, you know how many makeup artists I've talked to in the last couple of months around, like, you know, they're all not working, or a lot of them, right? And they will not pivot. They're so rooted in like, no, I miss my job too much. Whatever it is, right? And I applaud you because you've really taken like huge leaps and bounds. This is such a departure from what you are used to doing. And giving yourself grace in this time of growth is like huge, you know. I mean, I just feel like, you know, in some ways for me, starting to do Beauty Counter it's like, I feel like a little bit like doing yoga as a gymnast, right? So I used to be a gymnast. So like when I do yoga, people are always like, oh, it's so much easier for you. I'm like, well, I was a gymnast, so I'm flexible. So it's kind of cheating. So Beauty Counter, because I had the business background, is not as hard on some ways because I can put that hat on. And so I applaud people that are willing to make the change, like all of us on the call. So many women are like, complaining, but not doing anything. And then you're like, well, I can't listen to it, you know, because if you're not willing to, you gotta, it's like I say, you gotta, if you want to grow, you gotta go. If you want to go, you gotta grow. So you have to create the change in order to get a different outcome, or else it's just not going to work. So, okay.
Well, should we go to the word because it's after 12?
Oh, wow. See how
I
much
know. I know.
12 for you, after 11 for us. So yeah, sure.
Right.
Does anybody want to do, how about if we just do a quick stretch and do your pose? That could be enough of a movement.
Well, if you're sitting down, even just like a little chair stretch, just reaching your arms up, right?
Oh, but I think
it does feel good.
Like, what's your power pose?
Just your power pose, right? Yeah. I know. Just a quick stretch here, mentally, physically. It does feel good. And while Jamie was chatting, and nothing changes until you change something.
That's
Truth,
right.
right? I know, it's all true. Okay, so next time we'll keep it on time, on point, to get a little bit more movement in.
That's okay.
But I definitely wanted to get to this part here too. What is your word? And this flows so nicely from everything that we were just talking about with values and thinking about your values. Now I want to invite you to think about a word that you want to reflect on. Maybe it's for the rest of this month. Maybe it's even thinking ahead to August. Maybe it's just for the next week. First, I just want to share how I got to this. So this was actually, it comes off of your New Year's resolution word. And I remember having this conversation with Michelle and saying, I'm just so stumped on my word. I can't figure out what I want my one word to be for the whole year, right? And I just can't think of one word. It was keeping me up at night. And Michelle said, and as we were talking, she's like, but who is putting these boundaries around you for this one word? And I thought, you know what, you're so right. I have more than one word for the new year. And then I knew with my personality and knowing myself that having one word or even two words for an entire year just wasn't going to work. I was going to forget the word, and too many different things happen in each month to just have one word for the whole year. So for those of you guys that can commit to one word for a whole year, tell me all about that. But I knew for me, I wanted to have a word each month. And I wanted to have a word that was going to challenge me, right? That was going to push me and get uncomfortable, or a word that was going to help me grow, look at things in a different perspective, but yet a word that also is going to ground me. So this word is going to be something that I can reach out and touch. I can grab onto. Support. This word is support. And I have to tell you, since I've been doing this for the last 4 months, really since we've been doing Get Grounded, and about a month before that, this has helped me so much. It's almost like a meditation word,
It's like a mantra.
that I go to, and that I reach for. It's my friend. The word is my friend. And the word, and that's really what a friend should do, right? It should ground you, and it should also push you to grow a little bit too. There's just a lot of power and comfort in this word at the same time. So I've picked words over the past. I just want to offer these words up to you if you're sort of thinking, what are some different words? I want to invite you to think about words like action, patience, grace.
That's my word this month, grace.
Was yours grace? Joy. My word this month is self-care. The month of June was just a little crazy. We moved and everything going on in the world in June. I just felt like I was a little bit of too much of a ping pong ball in June, and forgot a little bit about myself and taking care of myself in different ways. And that could just mean like what we were talking about earlier with Michelle, just doing a 30-second meditation in the morning. That means self-care. Giving myself grace also means self-care. So taking care of myself this month has been important. It's helped ground me, but yet it's also helped me grow too. Because there have been certain times where I'm like, oh, I can just take care of myself later. I can do that later. I don't need to do this right now. Or negative mindset, just some of old patterns that might come up. To take care of myself and to better help myself and take care of myself, I need to recognize those negative patterns and that mindset, and do things to take care of myself, right? So take more time for podcasts, or checking in with your coach, or checking in with a trusted friend, checking in with yourself, with your partner, different ways that I could, take care of yourself. And then commit to that word. How are you going to commit to that word? That's a really big part of it. It's so easy to pick a word and then just forget about it.
Do you guys journal every day? Or I think an important thing, going back to structure and picking your word and all of that, is like reflecting on that word. Like if you've never picked a word for the month, like really like every day bringing yourself back to
Saying
that word.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You
saying.
have to write it down and put it on a post-it.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I write my word down and I put it on a post-it. I put it on myself on my mirror. I write it in my book. I read certain things related to that self-care. So I actually was reading 1,000 Gifts, specifically because self-care was my word this month. And this was really about just about being grateful for one thing each day, which is also part of self-care. So committing to it. So I want to invite you to pick a word. And again, this could also be a whole presentation, just like Michelle was saying about some of the other things. Finding your word and picking your word can be an entire 45-minute discussion.
Exactly.
So I'm just throwing this in 2 minutes to just see what comes up. But sometimes that's the best way to do it too. It just comes to you and you know that's your word. Or
And
I invite you to sit with it.
that, like, just know that this fall when we start the groups, that we will dive in deeper to a lot of these things, so that you can really embody it. And that's how you learn. Like, it's like constantly putting your, like she's saying, reading books, podcasts, putting yourself in a space to be the lifelong learner, to get the growth that you want. And to go deep, because who takes time to actually do the assessments or, those kinds of things? Very rarely. So my word is grace. Your word is
My word this month was self-care.
Self-care. Got it.
I know I'm already thinking like that was a great word for this month for me, but I'm already thinking like, okay, what do I want for next month? Because I really took care of myself much more this month than I normally do. And I feel much more grounded. But now like that different value of like drive and like power, those words are coming up for me right now, which is interesting.
Well, I think those words come up also. It's cyclical and based on seasonality.
Yeah.
Where, I think that's in some ways like the one part of your life and job around goals coaching is that. So that is, that's definitely something to be aware of and recognize it, face it, and say, okay, well, how important is that to me in this moment? So, and I think that that's the thing about goals, is that they shift and they change. So anyways, if you guys want to put in the chat, like,
what's your word?
What your word is, because we'd love to see them, because when we come back next month for some of our regular customers, we would love, so my goal would be that next, like when we start to be on a more regular basis, that we usually talk about these things that, you come back the next month and you're like, oh, okay, like, well, last month your word was this. So like, how did that work for you? What were the things that came up for you around that word? And that's really what, we've done a lot with our groups in the past. Do you see?
Patience has been a word for me too, Melissa. I saw someone put in patience, authenticity, perseverance. Those are great. And you don't need to just pick one, by the way. I love it. No boundaries there. Grounded.
I love that.
I felt so, grounded has been definitely a word. That's a great word to use too. Grounded. I felt so out of myself lately, just being present in the moment, for sure.
Well, and I think that that's the thing, like, really, it sounds so cliche, but when we say like, give yourself the gift of time, like, that's what this is. It's the gift of time. It's almost like this excuse to interact with like-minded women. Like, how lucky are we, So,
yeah, and that's what Molly was saying, integration. I want to springboard into journaling and meditation again. I use so much of my body and brain, but don't allow a lot of time for integration for experiences.
yeah, and I think that that's integration is such an amazing word, because so often people do one or the other, but they don't do all of them. So it's funny, because when I started doing Empower and the workshops and stuff, like, I was like, but my workshops are 360. They're about like mind, body, and spirit. I'm not just doing a yoga class with you. I'm not just meditating with you. It's about really giving you some of the brain work so that you can integrate. And I think that it's so important. You're so right. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. I love this. Thank you. I want to learn to be a coach. Oh, you could totally be a coach. You'd be a great coach, Melissa. So Galit could be the health coach and you could be a regular coach, especially with all your corporate background. Okay, so one of the things we want to leave you with and your thoughts is really around making progress versus perfection. Okay. And we are our own worst enemies. And we really want you to be able to shift your mindset and believe that all things are possible. Like I said earlier, we are created naturally resourceful and whole as humans. And I believe that each of us on this call are able to produce or create or succeed at anything that we want to put forward. And that comes with a structure, right? We need to get clear. We have to actually define our vision and our values. We need to commit to them, create consistency, and use the tools that we're giving you. These are just some tools that will help us get there. And now we have our word and we have some of our values that we've identified. But what we want you to do is pick one goal. I want you to pick one goal right now, and I want you to write it down. And that could be from this day to the end of the week. It could be for the month, but I don't want you to go much further. And I'm actually always that way as a coach. I don't believe, I love long-term goals. Like I certainly create goals for the year for myself and stuff like that. But I specifically try to focus on the now. Because the more present you are in your experience, the more you can manifest, right? So I'd love to hear what some of your goals are.
Well, scientifically, right, Michelle, when you really break down the brain, I mean, our brain really works in smaller chunks.
Yes.
So if you set a goal for yourself, like, oh, by the end of this year, you know, I'm going to finish 500 books.
Yeah.
Like,
that's overwhelming.
And worth like that 500 I've already shut down.
Exactly.
Not happening.
I'm like, 500, are you kidding me?
I mean, that was already a shutdown, but even if my goal was to read 5 books by the end of the year, that may sound overwhelming, but if I just break it down and say, you know what, I just want to read 1 book this summer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it makes it really tangible. I love that. Financial freedom, save $1,000 by end of month. Nice. I love that. And I love the fact that you're actually talking about financial freedom, Jamie, because a lot of women neglect that. And it is particularly the older we get, and men a lot of times control the money in the house. And then, you know, when certain things come about, whether it be divorce or whatever it is, you know, it suddenly hits you and you're like, whoa, you know.
That was a big one for me, to pay off all my credit card debt, which I did. And that was a big freedom.
Good for you. That's amazing. Sell more beauty counter. Love it, Jamie. Jamie, so
update my vision.
Are you a hairdresser too, Jamie?
Yeah, you wish you were here.
I know, I do. I've seen the color she does. It's good. 5-minute meditation, breathing first thing in the morning for August. I love that.
Update my vision board. That's a great goal. I need to do that.
I want to do a visioning workshop, actually, to be honest with you, because I need to read mine.
Maybe to do it digitally. Jamie just redid her vision board and I shared it yesterday on one of our group texts, and it was so inspiring.
Love it.
It was so good. Molly, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Molly. We appreciate that you're here. And then just the last slide is really our contact information. I think most of you all have our contact information, so not to worry about that. I do just want to, I wanted to come back live and just thank everybody for coming and for being so honest and transparent, and for building our community, and for helping me feel more grounded and be more present. And hopefully we'll continue to have more fun as the months go by. But I feel blessed that we've all had this interaction today. So
me too. Just being a part of this community and sharing and being open and being honest it just always, it helps,
Guys.
right? To know that we're all here and we're all in all of this we're in all of this together, and sharing in our truth and sharing in our trust is not something to go unnoticed, I think, or unacknowledged. Just creating this safe space in such a short amount of time is such a gift. So I just want to thank you guys all for showing up and being true and being real and listening to each other.
If you guys need any help, just call us. We're around. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm proud of us all for coming on. Wait, let me take a picture of everybody waving.
Oh.
We had some people already leave, but it's still nice. We're all very cute. Anyway, all right. We'll see you guys soon.
We're on here.
We love you.
Bye bye.
We had Panama and Canada, so we were global.
We were global. We had Canada and Panama.
I know. It's pretty cool.
Girl, we're global.
Global. All right, ladies.
Local, think global. All right. Bye,
Love
guys.
you all.
Love
Bye.
you. See you soon. Bye.